big
Well,
part.
I was mentioning it earlier about do or die situations.
Oh.
If you've ever been in some sort of scenario, like it doesn't have to be life threatening, just some scenario where you just had to find a way to make it work. And if you have any thoughts to, or anything to reflect on there.
You can start on it.
Yeah, you can start.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you probably the biggest one that I've encountered in my entire life so far. I had a real... I struggled with depression for like 4.5 years, and there were many... I'm not depressed now, by the way, thankfully. But
my boy. Yeah,
God bless.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And there were many nights where I was just like, just make it till the next morning, just hang on, right? And I'll tell you that now that it's done and now that I'm completely out of it and it doesn't affect me emotionally anymore, I would say I'm so grateful, as paradoxical as that may sound, I'm so grateful for the fact that it happened, because it really, I was really low. Like I was at my lowest, certainly, and close to suicide, very close. And I would say that some of the trying to keep myself alive, trying to keep myself going, really helped bring out some of my deepest and richest experiences, especially even with like physical exercise. Like I was using...
How did you keep positive?
I was always able to most of the time I was able to maintain some level of hope. Like I figured there's got to be a point at which this has to improve. Yeah, and not always. Like there were certainly points where I was thinking, like, is this just gonna be my life? Like, because also, at the time it was like grade 10 was when it really first hit me. Grade 9, grade 10, somewhere around there.
Eric, what, if you don't mind me asking, like what led to this whole
debacle?
The way it went was in grade 9 and 10 I moved sort of, let's say, in the middle of nowhere for those 2 years.
Okay.
And it's sort of a farm town of some kind.
Sure.
So of course I was like, everybody had grown up with each other, and I was the outsider that had come in.
You were the odd man out.
Yeah, especially from the city too, right? So,
absolutely.
You were from the city.
Yes,
Okay.
right. And so I was an outsider. I never really managed to, it was probably also a bit socially awkward back then too. And so that was like grade 10 especially was when it really hit me. But then I moved away, or rather I moved back to where I originally was, and so that improved things for a while. But then there was an incident where I had a falling out with two friends of mine, very close friends of mine, that it kind of happened like back to back, and it really kind of caught me off guard, and I really didn't expect it to happen, and so that really blew me apart as well.
Well, especially if it happens so randomly, and like you kind of like lose two of your support lines, right?
Mm.
And because you have like your support lines at home, but then when you're away from home, then you kind of have like your core, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, like I have my family, and then when I go out, I have different support groups, so different friends group, right? And then when I come back home, it's like coming back to the core, right? So,
Yeah, going back to like the reality of where
exactly,
you are, right?
Yeah.
So question for you,
Yeah.
Eric. And this is going to be for whoever's going to watch this or listen to this. What would be your advice for just to getting through depression since you're already out of it?
It's a good question.
And it could be anything.
Yeah. I think in grade I think it was grade 12 was when I was really getting, I was really in a low spot, and sorry, and I was worrying about like, how much further am I going to sink, right? I was already starting to become aware of the possibility that like,
Damn, that young too, huh?
yeah, and I remember I was in chaos, emotionally, psychologically, and I was jogging, you know, partly because I just needed something to focus on, and also, you know, I kind of already understood the benefits of exercise and all that. But I would say more deeply than that, the fact that I was jogging, it was more than just exercise. It was, I was becoming aware of the fact that I might very well kill myself, and so it was my way of putting up one last fight, because I figured if I'm going to die, then at the very least I'm going to put up one hell of a fight beforehand. And so jogging and another exercise was that was my way of fighting, and in some sense I was like fighting life. I guess it was, you know, if you're religious, you might even say I was like fighting against God or against, you know, whatever. But I would say if you're able to put up that one last fight, that tends to be a real solid way of hanging in there.
So find something to focus on, basically.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but that's only, like, I really mean this at the deepest level. Like, yes, find something to focus on, but more deeply than that, it has to, like, what I would say is, like, fight.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
be
give up on yourself.
right,
Yeah.
like, be stubborn about it. Like, even if you have to get angry, you know, I wasn't necessarily angry at any particular person, but I was kind of frustrated with how things had went, and I was really fighting against life. I was fighting against this bad hand that I had been dealt, and if you have something to fight for, that tends to at least help keep you alive. So.
And Eric, very glad that you fought that fight, because hey, you're still here. You have people that obviously love you. You have a crew right here that all love you.
Right, it's a small crowd.
Crowd right here.
Crowd here that all love you.
Thank you.
No, because I think by you saying that, if someone does listen to this, that's going through the same
shit,
that,
right,
that you were going through, you could give them hope.
Yeah.
Which is something to be entirely proud of. Because all one person needs to hear that's going through that stuff is just to hear one person that's been through it and that has
survived through it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Eric, you get, like, and I'm not just trying to boost you or anything, but, like, don't get me wrong, I've been through my fair share of shit too. Like, going through my second breakup, that would hit me harder than anything in the world. And you were there for me and with me through that whole thing. You invent every single day. Like, I can't tell you how depressed I was, how fucked up I was. Like, these guys would take me out every night. We were at a bar, shooting pool, having drinks, going to clubs. Like, these guys took care of me. And, like, I remember specifically one night, we went to a club, and I got a phone call. It was a pocket dial voicemail from my ex hanging out with a bunch of dudes. It was like, and in my head, I'm like, knowing, like, I think back at it, and I'm like, now that I think back at it, I'm like, you fucking did this on purpose, right? But,
for sure.
right? But
How old were you?
I was 2 years ago now.
2
years ago now, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
Early 20s still.
right, yeah. So it was 2 years ago, and I remember at that same night. So this was where we got to the club. And I remember that same night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I find Eric. I don't know where the fuck this guy always left. This guy always ditched and did his own thing. And then I found him near the end of the night. And I remember I was literally up against the wall of the club, beside Eric, and my phone kept ringing. And I don't know if you remember that, but it wouldn't stop. It would not stop at all. And she kept calling me and calling me and calling me, and, like, I didn't know what the fuck to do. And Eric, you looked at me and you asked me, you're like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth everything that you've been through to pick up that phone? Like, what are you gonna get from that? Like, ask yourself that. And I didn't pick up. And, like, to this day, man, like, and I was stubborn as fuck. I was always like, I you know me, I try to live my life as an optimist always. Like, you, sure. Right? I always try to spread positive energy, right? So no matter how bad a situation is, I always try to look on the upside of it. But looking back into it now, I was looking at it wrong. Instead of saying, I always said, no, it's gonna work out. We're gonna be okay. We're eventually gonna be okay. But realistically, what I should have said was, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how I should have looked at it. Like, no, we're gonna be okay, but I'm gonna fucking be okay. Yeah. And you taught me that, right? And but based on your depression and things you've been through, you helped me out too, man. And like to this day, and I feel like that's why you really resonate with me, because Eric hates my ex more than I hate my ex.
That's actually true.
And that's what you call a true
seriously.
friend, right? He hates my ex more than. Didn't you run into her yesterday too? This guy texted me.
I saw her, yeah.
This guy texted me, yeah.
Then he's like, fuck.
Yeah, right, and like you know what I mean. He told me like, it's like, is this worth it? I remember sitting there. I think I was in tears, man. Like I didn't know what to do with myself, because more than anything in the world, I wanted to answer that phone, pick up,
Right.
I miss you, I love you, blah blah blah, whatever the fuck the case is, right? And
It's not gonna help.
And right, and it's right. Eric said it's not gonna help, so I didn't answer it, and like, I felt more empowered just to not to answer that phone and let go and like worry about myself.
100%,
be like
yeah.
one of the best things possible. And like, I mean, I could go on a fucking tangent about that time in my life, and maybe that'll be a topic for another day. But just to say, Eric, your depression and like the things you've been through and the way you talk about it help a lot of people, man. So I don't. It was not for nothing. It didn't. Not only did it make you a stronger person, but it helped everyone around you too, because you spread light, and like that's something to be proud of, man.